Tracy Sable tonight on EWTN News Nightly, National Monument. How the White House is set to honor the start of the civil rights movement. Alternative to abortion. A closer look at one U.S. state that's providing funds to pro-life groups. A change in China. The communist country has replaced its foreign minister. We have the latest. And Popecast. Vatican News releases the first ever Pope-hosted podcast. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Well, thank you for being with us on the Feast of St. James. Our top story tonight, President Joe Biden signs a proclamation establishing a national monument honoring Emmett Till, the black teenager who was brutally murdered in Mississippi in 1955. His killing helped to launch the civil rights movement. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports.
Tracy, that signing establishing a new monument took place here at the White House. It honors Emmett Till, who was just 14 years old when he was abducted, tortured, and killed. It also honors his mother, who after her son's death demanded a public open casket funeral so the world could not look away from racism. And with a stroke of President Joe Biden's pen, the Emmett Till and Mamie Till Mobley National Monument, located across 3 sites in Illinois and Mississippi, is established.
The Till family, to all of you here today, I thank you for your courage, for never giving up.
In August 1955, Emmett from Chicago was taken from his uncle's home in Mississippi at gunpoint by 2 white men. Emmett's alleged crime? Flirting with the wife of one of his kidnappers. Later, his bloated, mutilated corpse found in a river.
I can't fathom what it must have been like.
The president's proclamation protects places central to the story of Emmett Till's life and death, the acquittal of his white killers by an all-white jury, and his late mother's activism. Vice President Kamala Harris also spoke.
We gather to remember an act of astonishing violence and hate, and to honor the courage of those who called upon our nation to look with open eyes at that horror and to act.
Meanwhile, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says allegations of financial wrongdoing against President Biden are rising to the level of an impeachment inquiry. But a White House spokesman says the House GOP's eagerness to go after the president, quote, regardless of the truth, is seemingly bottomless. And as the race for the White House builds steam, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, trying to get the Republican nomination, says he plans to beat Joe Biden after he beats Donald Trump.
In his heart, Donald Trump knows he lost to Joe Biden in November of 2020. But he has convinced himself by trying to convince others that the truth is otherwise, despite the fact that there is no evidence that the election was stolen.
Also tonight, mental health. The Biden administration announcing new rules to get insurance companies to increase their coverage of mental health treatments. The administration says, quote, too many Americans still struggle to find and afford the care they need. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
On Capitol Hill, the countdown is on to the August recess starting at the end of the week. The Senate hopes to pass a defense spending bill while the House wants to pass other financial measures. And a new White House plan to forgive some student loan debt is getting attention. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales runs it all down for us.
Good evening, Tracy. After this week, lawmakers won't be returning back to Washington until after Labor Day. So a final push is on to pass several spending bills. The influential Freedom Caucus is demanding government spending cuts to pre-COVID levels.
We're going to do what the American people elected us to do, and the House is going to say no. We're going to pass a good Republican bill out of the House and force the Senate and the White House to accept it, or we're not going to move forward.
Meanwhile, student debt relief is back, with the White House announcing a new path that forgives over 800,000 borrowers much of their student debt. Senator Bill Cassidy tells me the hefty price tag unfairly targets millions of Americans.
The president's going to continue to say this is forgiving debt for those who have it. It doesn't forgive debt. It transfers this $559 billion to other Americans who either never went to college, or went to college and paid off their student loans.
The president's income-driven plan cuts the amount that borrowers have to pay each month from 10% to 5% and tiers income, forgives loan balances after 10 years of payments for borrowers with original loan balances of $12,000 or less, and forgives monthly interest charges as long as payments are made. Analysts tell me the plan creates unrealistic expectations for borrowers.
When borrowers routinely expect this kind of tinkering with their loans on the back end, when they expect that future administrations will effectively convert their loans into taxpayer-funded grants, then borrowers are going to be more inclined to borrow more.
He adds a plan is another attempt for President Biden to gain votes and get around legal rulings.
This is of a piece with the administration's broader approach to law in any area that's near and dear to their hearts, right? It's this tendency to look at existing law and assume that prior Congresses have given them every tool they could possibly want or need to accomplish all that they wish to do.
Lawmakers do expect some legal challenges in the months ahead. Meanwhile, the Senate continues to work on its version of the Defense Authorization Act. It is unlikely to include any pro-life provisions like the one that was passed in the House. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
A new bill being considered in the House would extend the child tax credit to cover unborn children. The Providing for Life Act says a qualifying child, quote, includes an unborn child of an eligible taxpayer. A similar measure led by Florida Republican Marco Rubio has been taken up in the Senate. And in Ohio, pro-lifers are trying to prevent abortion from being enshrined in the state constitution.
We're asking them to vote yes on issue 1 on August 8th. That's a pro-life vote.
Issue 1 would increase the voting threshold to a 60% majority to pass an amendment to Ohio's constitution. Currently, only a simple majority is needed. The vote takes place August 8th. Well, staying in Ohio, an amendment to guarantee abortion access will be included on the ballot in November. Ohio will be the only state with an abortion-related ballot initiative in the fall. Well, officials in Kansas are ready to implement a new program highlighting alternatives to abortion. The statewide program aims to increase resources that promote childbirth, including pregnancy centers, adoption assistance, as well as maternity homes, all via state funding. The program passed following a lengthy legal battle. It also survived a veto by the governor. And joining us now to talk more about this is Jeanne Gawdun. She is senior lobbyist for Kansans for Life. Jeanne, great to be with you today. The Alternatives to Abortion program, I know, is set to go live very soon. Can you tell us a little bit more about it and the ultimate goal of the program?
Absolutely. The Alternatives to Abortion program was established by the legislature to enhance and increase the resources available to pregnancy resource centers, maternity homes, and adoption centers that offer life-affirming alternatives to abortion for women. The state has an interest in encouraging childbirth over abortion, and this program will be critical to that. These organizations are on the front lines helping women who are in difficult situations and need assistance to be able to choose life for their babies.
Jeanne, I know there was a moment where it seemed like this program really was unlikely to become law. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, and also the strategies that helped to overcome the governor's veto?
Well, we fortunately were able to maintain our supermajorities in both our House and Senate this last election because our ally to the abortion industry, governor, was reelected. And that came in very handy. We actually had bipartisan support to pass the Alternatives to Abortion program and also get it some funding, $2 million from the state general fund. But sadly, our governor, as it was a part of a budget bill, was able to line item veto that provision. Fortunately, we were able to achieve the 2/3 majority in each chamber to be able to override the governor's veto. And we knew that was a possibility because she has been a strong supporter of the abortion industry throughout her entire time in the legislature and as governor. So this means that these organizations, these pro-life organizations on the front lines of the fight for life, will be able to expand their hours of operation, perhaps open another facility in another town, and maybe actually hire some additional staff to be able to serve more women.
Yeah, and Jeanne, I know this program really is a big pro-life victory in Kansas. But last summer, Kansans actually voted down a referendum that would have put stricter laws in place when it comes to abortion. Why do you think we're seeing such, mixed sentiment here in your state?
Well, we know Kansans are pro-life, and that's because we have been able to enact over 25 pro-life laws over the last 30 years or so. And what happened, of course, last summer was an influx of money coming in from very far left organizations that support abortion on demand. And so that was what caused the failure of the amendment last year. But once again, we have reelected a supermajority of legislators. These are representatives of the people of Kansas and their values. And we made a commitment last year not to abandon moms and babies. And the Alternatives to Abortion program is just one step of many that we want to take to be able to get the resources to these women and help them at these different organizations. Another part of that is the public awareness campaign of the Alternatives to Abortion program. And most pregnancy resource centers get their clients by word of mouth. So the public awareness campaign will allow these organizations to be out in the forefront. There may be a website, there may be billboards, all kinds of ways for these organizations to have the services they offer to women free of charge be out in the public.
Well, Jeanne, thank you so much for your time today and talking to us about it. We really appreciate it, and God bless you and the work that you do.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including battling the heat, the latest on the devastating temperatures and wildfires in Greece, and learn more about a USCCB initiative on natural family planning. Two people have died after a firefighting plane crashed in Greece. The plane was releasing water before its wing was caught in a tree branch. Moments later, the plane, which had no ejection system, crashed into the ground. The fires come amid a scorching heat wave with temperatures hovering above 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, in a surprise move, China has ousted its foreign minister. Jeanne Gawdun was an outspoken supporter of China's aggressive foreign policy. He was last seen on camera in June. The foreign ministry has provided no information about his status. The move is not expected to change Beijing's foreign policy. While the U.S. Bishops' Conference and a Catholic bioethics group are warning about a broadening definition of full brain death. The definition now includes a coma as brain dead. In a joint statement, the USCCB and the National Catholic Bioethics Center said, quote, "The basis for our objection is that the proposed revision will allow patients who exhibit partial brain function to be declared legally dead when they are not biologically dead." While the U.S. bishops have also launched their annual Natural Family Planning Week this week. The theme this year is Marriage, One Flesh, Given and Received. NFP Week coincides with the anniversary of the 1968 papal letter Humanae Vitae, written by Pope St. Paul VI, that provides clear teaching on God's plan for married love and the transmission of life. And we go now to Teresa Notari, Assistant Director of the USCCB's Natural Family Planning Program. Teresa, great to have you on today. For those who may not be familiar, tell us a little bit more about natural family planning and how it's different from contraception.
Sure. Natural family planning, a lot of people don't understand what it is. That's the umbrella title for those methods of family planning that are based on a couple learning the biomarkers of the fertile phase of the woman's menstrual cycle. So it is not a guessing game. It is real information that a woman progressively watches her body every day and records whatever signs she's paying attention to. That is different from the very first natural method, which was the scientific method, which was the calendar rhythm method. That information was based on an algorithm, a theory of when a woman would ovulate. So yeah, NFP methods are very different and they fall into different categories. So you may have heard of the Billings ovulation method, for example, that tracks one of the signs of fertility, or the symptothermal method, or even the more recent ones called symptohormonal. They also make use of a fertility monitor to help the couple identify the fertile phase of the woman's menstrual cycle.
And Teresa, what are the benefits there for married couples in order to use NFP?
Well, the benefits are many, and there's plenty of research that backs this up. So, for example, because you're not using any drugs or devices, there are no harmful side effects for any of these methods. And the methods actually teach people how to understand their fertility, both individually, the husband as a man, the woman as a woman, the wife as a woman, and combined, what their fertility means as a couple. Because when a woman is fertile, she's really only fertile for 12 to 24 hours one day in her menstrual cycle. But she also has other bodily markers of fertility that facilitate her getting pregnant. And that could easily, combined with her husband's fertility, allow for like a 6-day window of fertility that if they were attempting to achieve a pregnancy, they would target their conjugal relations for that time. If they discerned prayerfully that this wasn't a time to try to attempt a pregnancy, they would just simply abstain from having conjugal relations at that time. So no drugs or devices are used, no sterilization, none of that happens. Nothing happens that would interfere with God's design for their marriage.
Yeah, and so useful. Why is this initiative, why is it so important to the USCCB?
Well, it's very important because we have, as a church, been holding up these beautiful teachings of how God made men and women, what the nature of marriage is really like according to God's plan. This is over 2,000 years of us understanding what God has given us. We understand these gifts from both sacred scripture as well as sacred tradition with a capital T. Over the centuries, we've understood what the meaning of marriage is. And marriage is this unique relationship that shows the communion of persons between the husband and wife in the fullest way possible, because they are the ones who God has called to create the one flesh union. And that union is so magnificent that it can give birth to new life. God actually calls married couples to share in his procreative capacity. So this is at the heart of the family and at the heart of God showing his love through the married couple. And of course, as Christians, we believe that since Christ redeemed all in humanity, he redeemed the sexual relationship as well. He redeemed marriage. And so the marriage between two baptized Christians is an example of Christ's love for his people, for the church. And it's not just an example. The Lord dwells in that marital relationship. And so it's not just the husband and wife, it's the husband and wife with Jesus. As Christians, we also talk about natural marriage. It would be the husband and wife with the Lord God in their midst. This is not just any relationship. And if we hold these beliefs, well, the church has never been against the idea that husband and wife have to discern how to plan their families. As long as that's done in justice and in seriousness, it is a reasonable, in fact, Humanae Vitae spells this out, that it is a reasonable thing to do. It's just that, and again, Humanae Vitae says this, and the church has been saying this for 2,000 years, you have to do this rightly. This whole area of planning families, planning births and postponing pregnancies, it has to be rightly understood that the gift is from God. Husband and wife are stewards of their marital relationship and of the gifts of love and life. And so trying to work within that plan and being mindful of the Lord's wishes for their marriage, it's got to be done in that way where they're not harming anything that God has given them. And natural family planning methods are the ethical methods, actually the only family planning methods that do no harm to God's plan. They don't insert any barriers. They don't include any chemicals. And let me just say a little sidebar about contraception. Hormonal contraception, that's a class of dangerous drugs for women. And women really need to get up to speed with how these things can harm their bodies. In fact, just a little while ago, a group of Catholic scientists have been petitioning the FDA to put black box warnings on hormonal contraception for the many, many side effects, including breast cancer, liver tumors, Crohn's disease, a whole number of autoimmune illnesses that can happen to some women on this medication. In fact, the FDA begrudgingly acknowledged in May 2022 that there is a link to breast cancer. And they changed their prescribing protocols that they are requiring those drug companies to now follow. So that's a win. But women in general don't commonly know these things because their medical professionals, their healthcare professionals do not commonly follow this information. So we've got lots of work to do to help people, help them understand what God gave us, help them understand what the methods are, and help them understand why hormonal contraception and indeed any contraception is really not good for them.
Absolutely. Teresa, thank you so much for bringing all of that up and to speaking with us about all this. We really appreciate it. God bless you.
Thank you.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, first of its kind, Pope Francis hosts his very own podcast. Plus, we hear from the leader of the multi-faith Taize community. Welcome back. With an eye towards World Youth Day next week, the Vatican has released another Popecast. It is a podcast in which Pope Francis listens to young Catholics. In it, the Holy Father offers encouragement to a group of young people saying, quote, God loves us just as we are, even if we are sinners, adding that it's important to never give up. Finally tonight, a monastic community in France known for its distinctive music, especially chants from sacred scripture, is set to welcome a new leader. Brother Alois led the Taize community for 18 years. After consulting with the group's nearly 100 members, he selected an Anglican from England to be their new leader. The ecumenical community was founded by a Protestant from Switzerland just before World War II. It is based in Burgundy, France. Joining us now from France is Brother Alois, prior of the Taize community. Brother Alois, thank you so much for your time today. We're grateful. Tell us more about your decision. Why are you stepping down now, and what made you select Brother Matthew?
I am now prior responsible for our community since 18 years. And some years ago already, I felt that we enter in a new phase, in a new stage of our life as a community. There's so many changes in the world, in the church. There are also more and more young brothers who did not know anymore our founder, Brother Roger. So I felt we enter into a new phase of our life. And I told the brothers 2 years ago, for that it would be good also to change the prior. And then I consulted all the brothers and I designated, according our rule, the rule of Taize, I designated Brother Matthew for this ministry.
And after such a long time, after 18 years, you must have a lot of memories. Can you share some of them with us, maybe the most significant ones about your time in the community?
Oh, so many memories, yes, of course, in the living together, but also memory very special immediately after the death of Brother Roger, our founder. He was killed during the prayer, common prayer in the church. And I had to take the ministry immediately next day. And I have to say, I found so much support in Pope Benedict. He supported us very much to continue our vocation of unity.
And Brother Alois, for those who may not be familiar, would you mind telling us a little bit about the Taize community, especially your music, and also why you have members from different faiths?
Yes, so we are a community about 90 brothers coming from different denominations, and we want to live unity of Christians. Christ asks us to be one so that the gospel can really shine out in the world. So this was the intuition of the founder, Brother Roger, who came here to this small village in Burgundy Taize is a small village in Burgundy, and he started this community. And then more and more young people came. The young people come as pilgrims, and they stay with us for 1 week of retreat, and they come from all over the world. Each week we have 2,000 young people here who pray with us, who read the Bible together with us, and we want to accompany them and welcome them and encourage them to take responsibilities in the church, wherever they are living, and in the world.
That is so beautiful. What else would you like folks to know about the community? What do you think is important for them to understand?
I mean that unity of Christians has to start on a small scale, has to start concretely. We cannot only discuss about it, but we have to live it. And that's what we try to do day after day. And the other point that is very important for us is listening to the young people, listening to them, not only teaching them, that also. We give Bible introductions, we speak about faith, but we want also to listen to them. What are their expectations? What are their questions? What are their sufferings? So each evening some of us remain after the evening prayer in the church to be there, present, to listen to young people who want to speak with us more personally.
That is so important, so beautiful. Again, Brother Alois, thank you for your time today. God bless you. And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sable. Good night, and God bless.